Hi everyone, welcome to my series. This is the Astrology in Action series, and it's all accompanied by worksheets that I do have in my Etsy. This is to help you put your astrology natal chart into action. So I want you to pull out your astrology whenever we do these videos, and in this video I'm going to tell you about the third house of workshop. So the third house is the house of skills, and it's the place where people sharpen their skills, and it's also really connected to confidence, being that it follows the second house. So somebody can know their value, but in order to exercise their value, that happens in the third house. The third house has so many layers to it. One of the things I want you to consider when you're looking at applying astrology to action is looking at how the third house helps you to sharpen yourself by putting yourself in a workshop. So what is a workshop? This is like a trial thing that you participate in, okay? Let's look up the word workshop. A workshop is a room or a building in which goods are manufactured or repaired. This could also be considered like your skills, because the third house is connected to the apprentice, okay? Also a meeting in which a group of people engage in intensive discussion and activity on a particular subject. So people can workshop ideas, they can brainstorm ideas. That also is what the third house is connected to, that space where you're meeting with others that are near to you, that probably may share the same interests as you, the same skills as you, and you're communicating, because that third house is also a house of communications. The third house is multi-layered. But I want you to think about that zodiac sign that's in your third house and how that sign itself you can use as a workshop. So let's go through them. And if you'd like to do and get all the worksheets on the third house, just check the link below to get it from my Etsy. If you have Aries in the third house, then you're workshopping your personality. You actually may be workshopping your physical body. Like you might put yourself through some sort of intense training or apprenticeship that challenges your physique, that challenges your fitness. And I always associate Aries with fitness first and foremost, because it's one of the first things that you actually have before all of the other ideas of Aries, like being a pioneer, being a leader. But definitely with Aries in the third house, you could also be a workshopping leader, putting yourself through somebody's like 3-hour intensive leadership program would be totally perfect for Aries in the third house. Let's say you have Taurus in the third house. Taurus is the voice. This is atypical, like somebody who takes singing lessons in their local nearby music school. They would be apprenticing, learning how to, work on their vocal skills. They could be somebody who's working on their production of something, so something that they like to make. They could be knitters who are taking a knitting class, learning how to make scarves. This is a workshop that teaches you how to make things with Taurus here. So it may seem like the carpenter placement, and Aries could also seem like a carpenter placement because it's dealing with knives. So I gotta say that, nothing is like really strict with how I do these things here. We're just taking the concepts of the zodiac and applying it to your chart. So it could definitely be that Aries or Taurus could be a place where people learn carpentry or clay molding. But you see, like carpentry would be more connected to Aries possibly, and like mold, like clay, like making pottery, that's the word, might be more Taurus in its nature, because you're making it with your with less sharp edges, I guess. But even I don't really know if that's true. But the idea here is that Taurus is where you're making things and you're learning how to make things in that workshop. Okay, so if you've got Gemini in the third house, this could be a placement where you're learning how to workshop language. You could be learning how to learn a language. You could be working on your own grammar. You could be, with Gemini in the third house, going through a workshop where you're developing. Let's use that third house as a space of development, right? Apprenticeship, development, skill building, or workshop. So you could be having to develop some sort of lingo or skill. And it may be something that, like a second language. It could be something that is connected to communications as well. So this could be somebody who's learning how to have a podcast voice, right? Learning how to utilize communications platforms like social media and things like that. Let's just say it, Cancer in the third house could deeply be connected to learning how to cook. And while that might seem a lot like Taurus in the third house, it could be the same thing. But Taurus could be making anything, where Cancer is learning how to cook for yourself, learning how to cook really good meals for your family, or just learning how to cook in general. Because Cancer is the great nourisher. And so with the third house, you're learning how to nourish. You're in a workshop of nourishment. So cooking is the first thing that I think of. But what are some things that you might think of that would be associated with nourishment? This would be how you could develop yourself by putting yourself through a workshop in the third house. If you have Leo in the third house, this is atypical going to music theater camp. You could workshop yourself by learning how to take the stage. With Leo in the third house, this could be also connected to cardiovascular energy. So similar to Aries, it could be like learning how to be a fitness instructor, learning how to, this is the first placement that I would say could be like a dance workshop, but it's really just connected to heart health. And you could do that in various ways. This could also be one of the first placements where you find someone learning how to do something as basic as be a doctor. And while that may not seem like Leo energy, the reason that it works is because it's coming from that deep, heartfelt space of love. So Leo being a heart energy in the third house is looking to develop that part of themselves. So either it's physically develop the heart to be stronger or morally to develop the heart to be stronger. Virgo in the third house is etiquette workshop. It's learning how to be sophisticated across the board. But again, because the third house is connected to language, this could be, like Gemini is about the translation of language. Virgo is about the higher octanes of language. And it's about knowing the greetings, the phrases of endearments, about being in the, preparing for the higher echelon of life. And through this, you do this through etiquette and language. But etiquette can also be not just language, right? So like learning the table placements, learning how to greet people in formal ways. This could be your workshop with Virgo in the third house. With Libra in the third house, this is a makeover spot. This is about connecting yourself to the high fashion, about knowing how to be your own makeup artist. You could take a workshop actually in makeup artistry or go to beauty school for like 3 months and discover all of the techniques that you've always seen other people do, but you've never partaken in it. Scorpio third house placement has a lot to do with sexual liberation through the forms of communication. So this also is a placement of dancing. It's a placement of sexy dancing, sensual dancing. But Scorpio could also be about recognizing how to communicate with people through nonverbal language. So that's why sexy dancing would be one of the things that I would say here. I say sexy dancing a lot whenever I see Scorpio placement of anything. So I might sound like a repeated book, but sexy dancing is hugely connected to Scorpio. But where in your chart will describe the nuance, right? So in the third house, it's a workshop of sexy dancing. You commit yourself to time and development to get better, to learn drills, to twerk properly, but also in the area of body language, in the areas of the things that people don't say. This could be about taking a detective class or learning how to read between the lines or getting training on knowing when people are telling the truth or not. It's a deep psychological placement, and in development, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it. Okay, so we've got Sagittarius in the third house. And this placement doesn't really feel like it needs a lot of things that it knows. But it's not true. Sagittarius in the third house can be a historian. This could be somebody who studies the traditions of older cultures, who maybe even takes on some of those traditions and allows themselves to explore exotic cultures outside of what they normally know or what they've grown up in. Sometimes it can be related to their heritage. Sagittarius in third house, so you're learning a history, development of something that was within your bloodline, within your heritage, but it does not necessarily have to be. Because the third house is a house of communications, this could be about learning how to communicate positively, learning how to communicate, seeing things on the brighter side of life, being more positive in general from that mentality. This could be a class on manifestation, law of attraction. This could be a class on learning how to kind of deal with get out of the shadow world and think and operate like somebody who is living on top of the world. And yes, there are workshops where people might have to really do that, where they have to unravel from their darkness and learn how to live in the light. So this could be about traveling to take a retreat somewhere or going to a personal development course for a weekend, something like that. So Capricorn in the third house would be connected to business development. This is somebody who might need to learn how to run a business, who might need to learn the inner things of business, like signing up for an LLC, learning how to actually negotiate business dealings, learning what are their resources, taking actual classes in these arenas would be great for somebody with Capricorn in the third house. Somebody with Aquarius in the third house is going to be learning how to develop themselves in basic technology. They may even take classes on things like cryptocurrency, NFTs. This is speaking of the current state of technology, but whatever is the next new thing, they might even take a class on how to use the next new iPhone model. But whatever it is, they need to recognize their need for development in technology and to not be scared of it, to try to be that 1% that's like ahead of the line of the new things. And even learning how to check for trends when it comes to everything from stock market, business, all of that. Because Aquarius is the trend setter, but also knows the trends because it's the trend setter. So in the third house, it's learning how to be that by recognizing the patterns and the formulas to trendings. And lastly, Pisces in the third house is connected to all things that are artistic and spiritual. All the things that are connected to the essence and the spirit of a person. So this is my final placement for somebody who's taking a dance workshop because it's deeply connected to the feet. You have somebody who's learning how to be a dancer literally or in life, right? Through that development of connecting to their inner body. They learn how to enjoy life better through the art of dance and moving with their feet and being synced from the mind to the feet. And that's the beauty of Pisces in the third house. This also could be a placement where somebody deeply goes into heritage or deeply learns about, travels into their bloodline, travels into their ancestry. Could be very similar. Other placements that would do this are also Cancer, Sagittarius. Certain placements are gonna want to dig into that part of themselves. But to really develop something that needs to be developed, when I think of Pisces, I think of that dancer or any sort of artistic expression of development. So this could be poetry class, this could be painting class, this could be acting classes. All of those things are deeply connected to the essence of spiritual expression and the most highest form of it. So it's an artist in training for sure with Pisces in the third house. So that is a third house in your workshop. And again, if you'd like to get the worksheets and start working your chart through the worksheets and putting your astrology in action, check out the Etsy link below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace and love.